The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with unease, an imposing structure filled with representatives of countless species. Every seat was occupied, their occupants murmuring in myriad tongues as they digested the news. A holographic projection dominated the center of the room, displaying Earth, the home world of humanity, a species whose audacity had sent ripples of fear across the galaxy. The Council's appointed speaker, a towering avian being with shimmering blue feathers, raised a clawed hand to silence the room. Fellow members of the Galactic Council, we face an unprecedented crisis. Humanity, despite our extensive efforts, has outright refused to engage in diplomatic negotiations. Their message was clear: they do not recognize our authority, nor do they wish to be part of our collective. A ripple of dismay passed through the chamber. Humanity's defiance wasn't entirely unexpected. Their reputation had been building ever since they made contact with the wider galaxy. In a remarkably short time, they had established themselves as a species both resourceful and aggressive. Unlike other civilizations that approached the Council cautiously, humanity had burst onto the galactic stage with a mix of technological innovation and a refusal to adhere to traditional norms. One representative, a reptilian figure with emerald scales, hissed, "This insolence cannot go unanswered. They are a danger to our collective peace. Refusal to negotiate is tantamount to a declaration of war." The speaker's feathers bristled. "We must first understand the reasons behind their defiance. Humanity's history suggests they act with calculated intent. What do they gain from alienating the most powerful coalition in the galaxy?" A smaller, rodent-like delegate chimed in. "Perhaps they perceive us as weak. Their advancements are undeniable: faster-than-light travel, adaptive military technologies, and their mastery of terraforming have made them formidable in ways we cannot ignore." The chamber grew quieter as the representatives considered the implications. Humanity's technological ascent was unlike anything previously encountered. Where other species had taken millennia to progress, humans had achieved comparable advancements in mere centuries. Their methods often defied convention, earning them both admiration and unease. The Council's earlier attempts to establish rapport had been met with polite but firm disinterest. Now, with humanity's outright refusal, the Council faced a species that seemed immune to the usual pressures of diplomacy. "We cannot allow them to dictate terms," said another representative, a gaseous entity whose voice echoed unnaturally. "Their refusal sets a dangerous precedent. If one species can reject the Council, others may follow." The speaker nodded gravely. "Yet we must tread carefully. Humans are not to be underestimated. They have fought wars among themselves for millennia, honing their strategies and resilience. Their ability to adapt under pressure is unparalleled." A holographic dossier appeared above the table, summarizing humanity's key traits: adaptability, ingenuity, and a tendency to escalate when provoked. The Council had previously hoped to bring humanity into the fold peacefully, leveraging their strengths for the greater good of the galaxy. That hope now seemed distant. "What if they are planning something?" asked a voice from the back of the chamber. The representative, a hulking insectoid, leaned forward. "Their refusal could be a ruse. A diversion while they prepare for conflict." This suggestion sent another wave of murmurs through the assembly. The idea of humans, with their unpredictable behavior and unorthodox strategies, launching a preemptive strike was a chilling prospect. The Council had never faced a foe like humanity, one that didn't seem to fear them. "Or perhaps," countered an elder aquatic representative, their voice calm yet piercing, "they simply value their independence above all else. Their historical records indicate a consistent pattern. Humanity resists external control, even at great cost to themselves. They fought against each other to define their own destinies. Why should we expect them to behave differently with us?" The chamber fell silent at this observation. Humanity's insistence on self-determination was well documented. They had overcome planetary crises, internal conflicts, and existential threats, always emerging stronger and more unified. To many, this unyielding spirit was admirable. To the Council, it was potentially catastrophic. "We must decide how to proceed," the speaker declared, their tone firm. "Further attempts at diplomacy may be interpreted as weakness." Yet aggression could provoke retaliation that endangers us all. What course of action can balance these risks? The room descended into debate, each species offering a perspective shaped by their unique histories. Some pushed for military containment, arguing that humanity's growth needed to be curbed before it spiraled out of control. Others advocated for restraint, warning that antagonizing humans could lead to a war the Council was ill-prepared to fight. In the midst of the discussion, a neutral observer from an unaligned species took the floor. Their holographic projection flickered as they spoke. Perhaps the true question is not what we should do, but why humanity has chosen this path. Their defiance may not be a sign of aggression but a reflection of their principles. To act without understanding would be folly. The speaker acknowledged the comment with a subtle incline of their head. A fair point. Before any action is taken, we must gather more intelligence. Understanding humanity's motives will be crucial in determining our next steps. As the session adjourned, the representatives filed out of the chamber, their expressions ranging from worry to determination. The question of humanity's refusal hung heavy in the air, its implications far-reaching. The Council had faced many challenges in its long history, but none quite like this. For the first time, they confronted a species that seemed impervious to their authority, a species whose very existence challenged the foundations of their unity. News of humanity's refusal to negotiate spread rapidly, carried by the vast communication networks linking the galaxy's countless worlds. The announcement ignited a wave of panic and uncertainty, with citizens across the stars grappling with the implications. Humanity, known for their unpredictability and rapid development, had effectively rejected the authority of the Galactic Council, an act that many interpreted as a declaration of superiority, or even war. Speculation ran rampant, with theories ranging from imminent invasions to an elaborate human ploy to consolidate power. On trade hubs and major colonies, the situation became a focal point of public discourse. Crowded marketplaces and bustling spaceports hummed with conversations about humanity. Merchants from distant systems traded exaggerated rumors of human fleets massing near unaligned territories. The fear of the unknown only fueled the anxiety. Humanity's technological capabilities were impressive, but much about their culture and intentions remained a mystery. Some civilians began stockpiling resources, while others advocated for diplomatic pressure to resolve the standoff peacefully. The uncertainty gripped entire civilizations, fracturing their sense of security. The Galactic Council itself began to feel the strain as member species reacted to the crisis. Militaristic civilizations, especially those with histories of expansionism, were quick to propose defensive measures. These factions saw humanity's defiance as a provocation and argued for preemptive strikes to prevent what they viewed as inevitable aggression. They pointed to humanity's rapid technological progression and history of conflict as evidence that the species posed an existential threat to the galaxy. In contrast, pacifist and diplomatically inclined members urged caution, emphasizing that humanity's motives might not align with the Council's worst fears. These representatives highlighted humanity's lack of territorial ambitions outside their own systems and their apparent disinterest in conquest. To them, humanity's refusal was not an act of war but a declaration of independence, a statement that they valued sovereignty above all else. The divide between these factions deepened, threatening to fracture the Council's unity. Beyond the Council chamber, individual species took matters into their own hands. On frontier worlds near human space, local governments ramped up security measures. Fleets were mobilized to patrol borders, and defensive stations were placed on high alert. Independent trade organizations began rerouting their shipping lanes to avoid human-controlled regions, fearing the possibility of hostilities. These precautions came at a significant economic cost, further exacerbating tensions between factions that favored war and those advocating restraint. The media added another layer to the growing panic. Galactic news networks capitalized on the fear, broadcasting sensationalized reports about humanity's supposed preparations for war. Analysts speculated about the potential consequences of open conflict, painting grim scenarios of devastating battles and shattered alliances. Some outlets portrayed humanity as a dangerous rogue faction, while others depicted them as misunderstood outsiders unfairly targeted by an overbearing council. The polarized coverage only deepened the divisions among the galaxy's citizens, who struggled to discern fact from fiction. Within individual species, the fear of humanity began to take on cultural significance. In some societies, humans were elevated to near mythical status, seen as unstoppable forces of nature that embodied both destruction and ingenuity. Stories of their resilience during Earth's turbulent history, surviving environmental collapse, global wars, and pandemics, were retold with a mix of awe and dread. In other civilizations, humans became symbols of rebellion, inspiring underground movements that viewed the Council as an oppressive regime. These groups celebrated humanity's defiance, seeing it as a beacon of hope for those who longed to break free from the Council's influence. As fear spread, so too did misinformation. Reports of human weaponry and tactics were exaggerated to the point of absurdity, with some claiming that Earth possessed a secret arsenal capable of wiping out entire star systems. These claims were often dismissed by experts, but the constant barrage of rumors left many unsettled. Even the Council's own intelligence network struggled to separate truth from fabrication, a testament to humanity's enigmatic reputation. Amid this chaos, a growing number of neutral observers began to question the Council's approach. Independent scholars and analysts pointed out that humanity's actions were not entirely unprecedented. Other species had resisted joining the Council in the past, though none with the same level of defiance. They argued that the Council's insistence on universal membership was fundamentally flawed, as it failed to account for the diversity of values and priorities among the galaxy's species. To them, humanity's refusal was less a threat and more a critique of the Council's rigid structure. Despite these voices of reason, the overall mood remained one of fear and uncertainty. The idea of a species rejecting the Council's authority challenged deeply held assumptions about intergalactic governance. For millennia, the Council had been the galaxy's stabilizing force, resolving disputes and promoting cooperation among its members. Humanity's defiance undermined this sense of order, raising uncomfortable questions about the Council's legitimacy and effectiveness. As the situation escalated, some member species began to distance themselves from the Council, viewing its inability to address the crisis as a sign of weakness. Others doubled down on their commitment, believing that unity was the only way to counter humanity's growing influence. This polarization threatened to unravel the delicate balance of power that had maintained peace for generations. The galaxy stood at a crossroads, its future uncertain. The fear of humanity loomed large, casting a shadow over every decision made by the Council and its members. Yet beneath this fear lay a deeper truth. Humanity had exposed the vulnerabilities of a system that had long been taken for granted. Whether the Council could adapt to this new reality remained to be seen, but one thing was clear: humanity's refusal to negotiate had forever changed the galaxy. Humanity's response to the Galactic Council's overtures was as calculated as it was resolute. From the very beginning, the refusal to negotiate was not an impulsive decision, but a deliberate act rooted in centuries of cultural evolution and philosophical values. The leaders of Earth's united governments, backed by an overwhelming majority of their citizens, articulated a clear stance. Humanity would not subjugate itself to any external authority, no matter how vast or powerful. This defiance was not born of arrogance but of a deeply ingrained belief in autonomy. Humanity's history had been marked by countless struggles for independence, both on individual and collective levels. From overthrowing oppressive regimes to dismantling colonial empires, humans had consistently demonstrated an unyielding resistance to control. These lessons, hard-earned over millennia, had shaped a species that valued freedom above all else, even when the cost was steep. The Galactic Council's invitation was perceived not as an opportunity for cooperation but as a potential threat to that hard-won sovereignty. The notion of joining a centralized intergalactic body, where decisions would be influenced or dictated by alien powers, clashed with humanity's fundamental ideals. Earth's leadership saw the Council's offer as a veiled attempt to integrate humanity into a system where their independence would be eroded, their unique identity diluted. Strategically, humanity also recognized the precarious position they occupied. While the Council boasted a vast array of resources and military capabilities, humans understood that their strength lay in their unpredictability and innovation. Throughout their history, they had faced insurmountable odds, relying on ingenuity and determination to turn the tide in their favor. Earth's leaders were acutely aware that direct confrontation with the Council was not desirable, but they also knew that submission would compromise their long-term survival. Preparations for potential conflict began immediately following the decision to refuse negotiations. Humanity's military-industrial complex shifted into high gear, not to launch an attack but to ensure readiness for any eventuality. Fleets were modernized with cutting-edge technology, including advanced propulsion systems and adaptive weaponry designed to counteract a variety of alien threats. Defensive systems around Earth and its colonies were reinforced, creating layers of fortifications capable of withstanding prolonged sieges. Beyond the military realm, humanity's scientific and technological communities worked tirelessly to develop innovations that could provide an edge in a galaxy where they were outnumbered and outgunned. Projects that had once been theoretical, such as artificial intelligence capable of autonomous tactical decision-making and energy-based shielding systems, were accelerated to practical application. These advancements were not broadcasted or flaunted but kept strategically ambiguous, furthering humanity's image as an unpredictable and potentially dangerous adversary. This resolve extended beyond government and military sectors, permeating every level of human society. Civilian populations rallied behind the decision, their unity strengthened by the perceived external threat. Media and cultural narratives framed the refusal to negotiate as an act of courage, a declaration that humanity would not bow to external pressures. Artistic and literary expressions flourished, celebrating human resilience and independence, galvanizing public support. At the core of this defiance was a distinct worldview that differentiated humanity from the other species of the galaxy. Humans saw adversity not as a barrier but as a catalyst for growth. Their history was a testament to their ability to overcome crises that would have decimated other civilizations. This capacity for adaptation had been honed through countless challenges, from natural disasters to existential threats. The refusal to negotiate was, in essence, an extension of this ethos, a refusal to compromise their principles in the face of uncertainty. What the Galactic Council miscalculated was the depth of humanity's distrust. From their perspective, the Council's offer was one of inclusion and mutual benefit. To humanity, it appeared as yet another attempt by a centralized power to impose its will. Earth's leaders and thinkers viewed the Council's structure as inherently flawed, designed to benefit the most powerful species while marginalizing the rest. The prospect of becoming a junior member in such a hierarchy was unacceptable. This philosophical divide was further exacerbated by humanity's perception of the Council's historical track record. Despite its claims of maintaining peace, the Council had been involved in numerous conflicts, many of which were the result of its own policies. To humans, this painted a picture of an organization more concerned with maintaining its dominance than fostering genuine cooperation. By refusing to negotiate, humanity sent a message: they would chart their own course, free from the constraints of a system they viewed as fundamentally unjust. Even as tensions simmered, humanity's actions were not entirely isolationist. Diplomatic channels remained open with individual species, fostering selective alliances and trading agreements that bypassed the Council's oversight. These relationships were carefully curated to strengthen humanity's position without entangling them in the Council's web of influence. In this way, humans demonstrated their ability to engage with the galaxy on their own terms, proving that their refusal was not an act of hostility but a calculated assertion of independence. This nuanced approach left the Council in a difficult position. Humanity's refusal to negotiate was both a challenge and a statement of their intent to remain self-reliant. It forced the Council to re-evaluate its strategies, as traditional methods of diplomacy and coercion had little effect. Humanity had effectively redefined the terms of engagement, shifting the balance of power in a way that few species could have anticipated. As humanity fortified its position, its leaders remained steadfast in their conviction. They understood the risks of their decision, but believed the rewards far outweighed them. By refusing to negotiate, they had not only preserved their sovereignty but also demonstrated the strength of their principles. In doing so, they had set a precedent that would resonate throughout the galaxy, challenging the status quo and redefining humanity's place in the interstellar order. The Galactic Council's chamber was a fractured assembly, its members struggling to unify in the face of humanity's unprecedented defiance. The divisions between the factions deepened, with no consensus on how to proceed. Some argued for swift and decisive military action to assert the Council's authority, while others feared the catastrophic consequences of provoking a species as unpredictable as humans. The Council's inability to act decisively became a glaring weakness, one that humanity's calculated stance had exposed for all to see. Amid the escalating tensions, the Council received reports of a coordinated display of human technological prowess. It was not an attack but a demonstration designed to underscore humanity's capabilities. In a carefully orchestrated maneuver, a fleet of human vessels executed precision maneuvers near the borders of Council-controlled space, utilizing propulsion systems that defied conventional understanding. These ships displayed an uncanny ability to adapt in real time, simulating scenarios that outpaced even the Council's most advanced prediction algorithms. Observers noted the unmistakable message: humanity was prepared for any eventuality, and would not be intimidated. This calculated show of strength had the intended effect. Discussions within the Council shifted from enforcing compliance to finding a way to coexist. For the more militaristic factions, humanity's demonstration reinforced their fears of an uncontrollable power. For the diplomatic factions, it presented an opportunity to advocate for a more nuanced approach. The latter group argued that humanity's refusal to negotiate was not a declaration of hostility but a demand for respect. For the first time, a majority of Council members began to acknowledge that their approach to humanity might require a fundamental shift. The turning point came when an independent coalition of neutral species presented a proposal to the Council. They argued that humanity's defiance was not a rejection of cooperation but of subjugation. The proposal called for a restructuring of the Council's policies, emphasizing equality among its members and abandoning practices that centralized power among a select few species. The coalition's argument was simple: humanity's actions had exposed the flaws in the Council's system, and addressing those flaws was the only path to sustainable peace. The proposal sparked heated debate. For species that had long benefited from the Council's hierarchical structure, such reforms were seen as a threat to their influence. Others, particularly those who had felt marginalized within the current system, embraced the idea as an overdue correction. The debate raged on, but the growing realization was inescapable: humanity had fundamentally altered the dynamics of intergalactic diplomacy, forcing the Council to confront its own vulnerabilities. While the Council deliberated, humanity maintained its enigmatic stance. They neither escalated the situation nor sought to appease the Council, instead continuing their preparations and selectively strengthening relationships with independent species. This strategy further destabilized the Council's authority, as member species began to question the benefits of alignment. For many, humanity's independence offered an inspiring alternative to the Council's centralized governance, a possibility that had seemed unthinkable before. The Council's eventual response was a calculated compromise. A delegation was sent to humanity with an offer that diverged from all previous negotiations. Rather than demanding compliance or membership, the Council proposed a mutual non-aggression pact and a framework for future cooperation as equals. The terms acknowledged humanity's sovereignty, a concession the Council had never made before. It was a significant shift in policy, one driven by necessity and the realization that humanity could not be forced into submission. Humanity's response was deliberately measured. They accepted the framework, but with provisions that ensured their independence remained intact. The pact established limited avenues for collaboration, primarily in trade and scientific exchange, without binding humanity to the Council's overarching authority. This agreement marked a turning point, not just for humanity but for the Council itself. It was a reluctant admission that their traditional methods of control were no longer absolute. The galaxy's reaction to this resolution was mixed. Some saw it as a victory for humanity, proof that even the might of the Council could be challenged by a determined and principled species. Others viewed it as a dangerous precedent, one that might inspire further defiance from other members. Within the Council, the impact was equally profound. Discussions of reform gained momentum, driven by the realization that humanity's defiance was not an anomaly but a warning of systemic weaknesses. The broader implications of humanity's actions rippled through the galaxy, reshaping interstellar politics and diplomacy. The Council's authority, once seen as unassailable, was now viewed with skepticism. Member species began to advocate for greater autonomy, inspired by humanity's refusal to compromise their values. In this way, humanity's defiance became a catalyst for change, forcing the galaxy to reevaluate the balance of power and the principles upon which its governance was built. For humanity, the outcome was a vindication of their strategy. By refusing to negotiate on terms that undermined their sovereignty, they had not only preserved their independence but also reshaped the galaxy's perception of them. They were no longer seen as newcomers to be assimilated but as a force to be reckoned with, a species that could influence the direction of galactic affairs without compromising their ideals. The Galactic Council, for all its initial bluster, was left to adapt to a new reality. The lessons learned from humanity's defiance would shape its policies for generations to come, as it grappled with the challenge of balancing unity with diversity. The events surrounding humanity's refusal to negotiate would be remembered as a pivotal moment in galactic history, a moment when a single species forced an entire interstellar order to confront its own limitations and evolve. In the end, humanity achieved more than just survival. They redefined the possibilities of interstellar coexistence, proving that strength could be found not just in might but in principles. The fear they inspired was not born of aggression but of their refusal to compromise what they believed in. For the galaxy, it was a reminder that even the most established systems could be challenged by those bold enough to stand their ground. For humanity, it was a declaration that they would chart their own destiny, no matter the cost.